My name is Jordan Solb, and I'm sitting in a coffee shop in San Francisco's financial district, staring at my phone, rereading the message that finally severed the last ties between me and my family. It arrived from my mom at 2:47 p.m. on Tuesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I was in the midst of the most serious negotiations of my life, but when I saw her name on the screen, I opened the message anyway. An old habit. Jordan, I'm sorry, but we can't invite you to Thanksgiving this year. Tyler and Madison are hosting at their new house in Westchester, and Madison is really nervous about the guest list. She even said it should be curated. She's worried about the impression it will make, since she invited her parents and Tyler's colleagues from the firm. You know, maybe we can meet for coffee when you're in town. Love you, Mom. I reread the message twice. Then I placed the phone face down on the table and reconnected with the representatives of Tech Venture Global, who were discussing the acquisition of my cybersecurity company for $160 million. If you've ever been considered the family disappointment while you quietly built an empire, like and subscribe right now. The fun part is coming. Fast forward 6 years. I just graduated with a degree in computer science and instantly disappointed everyone by giving up a cushy corporate job to start my own company. It wasn't a sleek startup with investments, consoles, and a ping-pong table, but a boring and extremely practical cybersecurity firm that protected small businesses' data. Meanwhile, my older brother Tyler had graduated from Columbia Law School. He joined a prestigious firm in Manhattan, wore suits more expensive than my monthly rent, and casually discussed wine regions as if it were the weather outside. When he brought Madison home 2 years ago, she took one look at me, hoodie, jeans, and I immediately knew which folder she'd mentally filed me in, the losers folder. Madison was old money, not just rich, but with a family country club whose membership had been passed down since 1952. Her father was a federal judge. Her mother sat on charitable boards and pronounced the word interesting in a tone that translated to sad. At their engagement party, Madison introduced me to her parents like this. This is Tyler's brother. He works in computers. Not tech, not engineering, computers. As if I was fixing laptops at the mall. I didn't correct her. I had more important things to do. I was building the present. My company, Security Solutions, started in my apartment with just 2 people, me and my best friend from college, Marcus Chin. We cold called everyone, small businesses, clinics, law firms, anyone who had data but couldn't afford expensive protection. Small businesses only get remembered when they've already been hacked, Marcus told me in the first year. And they'll need us even before that. He turned out to be right. We grew slowly, but steadily. 10 clients turned into 50, 50 into 200. We hired security specialists, wrote our own software, created operational protocols for businesses with a limited budget. Tyler inquired about my computer business only once, at a family dinner 3 years ago. So, are you still in that tech support business? He asked, expertly cutting his steak, like a man who'd taken an etiquette course. Cybersecurity, consulting, I corrected. Uh-huh, how's that going? Growing. Well, that's good. Madison's dad was just saying how important it is to find your niche, even if it's not particularly prestigious. He said it almost encouragingly, as if praising me for my modest efforts. I could have said that we just signed a $2 million contract with a hospital chain. I could have said that 3 venture capital firms were already interested in us. I could have said that I was earning more than he was in his starting position. But I didn't. I simply smiled and changed the subject. Because I'd long ago realized that my family's perception of my success had nothing to do with reality. They were all about the scenery. Tyler had the right degree, the right job title, the right address. I had a startup, which meant in their eyes, I practically lived with my mom. And I let them believe it. I drove a 7-year-old Toyota, lived in a modest apartment in Oakland, showed up to family gatherings in a hoodie, and I was growing my company into something truly great. While they applauded Tyler for including him in the partner pool, the truth was that Security Solutions had long since outgrown my initial expectations. We'd secured government contracts and protected federal agency data. We'd created software that was licensed to Fortune 500 companies. We'd been featured in TechCrunch, Forbes, and Wired, and my family knew absolutely nothing about it. My mom would call every few months. So, how's your computer business going, son? Do you even have any clients? As if I was scraping by on odd jobs and not managing a company with 47 employees and offices in 3 cities. Tyler would occasionally forward me job postings. I came across a position at a tech company in New York. It might be more reliable than your startup. Let me know if I need a good word for you. And every time, these were positions below the level I'd long held. I didn't tell them anything on purpose. I wanted to understand whether they would respect me without big numbers, whether they would treat me genuinely, without regard for money, whether they would see me as a person, not a status symbol. The answer was increasingly a silent no. With Madison, things only got worse. She grew up in a world where a person's worth is measured by the neighborhood they live in and the name of the club on their business card. She assessed people the same way she assessed interiors. Does this fit the picture I want to create? I didn't fit that picture. At their wedding last year, Madison seated me at table 12, with the brother of a friend of Tyler's former roommate and a cousin the family hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Tyler was absorbed in his role as the perfect groom and didn't notice. Mom just said, "Madison thought so carefully about the seating arrangements, honey." The real boiling point came 6 months ago, when Tyler and Madison bought a house in Westchester, a 4-bedroom colonial, the kind that silently screams, "We've made it." They threw a housewarming party. I wasn't invited. It was a very intimate gathering, my mom explained when I asked. Just Madison's family and a few of Tyler's colleagues. It was very personal. I later saw photos on Facebook, 70 people, at least. That's when I stopped pretending I didn't care. And that's when I realized I'd been participating in an experiment with a predetermined outcome all along. My family didn't want a relationship with me. They either needed me to succeed by their rules, or for me to quietly disappear behind the scenes. So I did the only thing I could, focused on business. Tech Venture Global first approached us in July. They were a serious player in the cybersecurity market, and it turned out they'd been watching our growth for almost 2 years. They were interested in our government contracts. Their tech team was impressed with our proprietary software. "We're ready to make you a serious offer," their CEO said at our first meeting. "Your company fills a critical gap in our portfolio. Security for small and medium businesses is an underserved market, and you've learned to make consistent profits in it." Negotiations dragged on for months, audits, assessments, and finalizing terms. Marcus and I worked endlessly with lawyers, accountants, and consultants. We flew to New York, Boston, and Chicago. I didn't say a word to my family. The final offer arrived in mid-November, $160 million. $40 million of that was in cash for me personally, the rest in stock and retention bonuses. I remained division president for 3 years, with complete autonomy and a salary that would make Tyler's income look like pocket change. We signed on November 22nd. The announcement was set for November 23rd, at 6 p.m. ET, Thanksgiving. I didn't pick the date deliberately. Tech Venture wanted to go on air before the long weekend to grab the headlines. I agreed, without even considering the holiday. And then I got a message from my mom. I was sitting in that same coffee shop, rereading the text about how I was too poor and unsuccessful to sit at their holiday table. And suddenly, I started laughing. Not out of anger, not out of pain, but genuinely, at the absurdity of it all. Marcus looked up from his laptop. "What's wrong?" I showed him the message. He read it twice, then looked at me. "Are you kidding me?" "No, my mom just disinvited me from Thanksgiving because Tyler's wife thinks I'm too poor. Long story short. And this is just when we're literally closing a deal that will make me richer than my entire family combined." "Time is the best comedian," Marcus said. "Are you going to tell them?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. Let everything go as it goes. And here's how it went. Thanksgiving, 6:04 p.m. Eastern Time. I was in my Oakland apartment, eating Thai takeout and watching a movie. My phone vibrated with a news alert. Breaking news. Tech Venture Global acquires Securite Solutions for $160 million. Strengthens cybersecurity for small and medium businesses. Then another, and another. TechCrunch, Forbes, Bloomberg, Reuters. The story was all over the news feeds. The day was empty, and business journalists needed a big news story. By 6:15 p.m., the news was already being reported on CNN. By 6:30 p.m., it was running on MSNBC. At 6:47 p.m., the first call came. It was my college roommate. "Dude, Did you just sell your company for $160 million? The second caller, a former professor. Jordan, I just saw the news. Congratulations. The third, Marcus, choking with laughter. Go on Twitter. You're trending. I did. Hashtag #SecureET acquisition was trending in the tech community. My name was trending locally in the Bay Area. The fourth call, Mom. I sent it to voicemail. The fifth, Tyler. Same thing. The sixth, Mom again, and then again. The phone kept ringing. Friends, former colleagues, partners, everyone, except those who were sitting at the table with a turkey in Westchester at that moment, and were just starting to notice the pop-up notifications. I set it to silent and calmly returned to the movie. By 9 o'clock that night, I had 47 missed calls, 32 messages, and 16 voicemails. I heard my mom's first text at 10. Jordan, son, I saw some news about your company. Can you call me back? I don't quite understand what's going on. Tyler's first text. Jordan, call me back immediately. I saw some news about Secured. I want to make sure you haven't been caught up in some kind of scam. A text from Madison, the first I'd ever heard. Jordan, we're being asked about this acquisition. Could you please explain what's going on? I went to bed without answering anyone. On Friday morning, the story broke. The Wall Street Journal published a story about small cybersecurity companies that are reshaping the market. Forbes published my profile. Their tech reporter had been writing it for weeks. Business Insider broke the deal. I already had 103 missed calls. I didn't answer until noon. A single message in a family chat I'd been removed from 6 months ago, but where I could still post. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Sorry I missed dinner. Was busy wrapping up a couple of business matters. Hope the turkey was a success. I attached a link to the Forbes article. The reply arrived instantly. Mom. Jordan, call me immediately. It's very important. Tyler. We need to talk. When are you returning to New York? Madison. I think there was a misunderstanding about Thanksgiving. I didn't reply to anyone. All of Friday was spent in meetings with the integration team from Tech Venture. We were planning the transition. On Saturday morning, Mom called from Tyler's phone. I answered. Jordan, thank goodness. We've been trying to reach you for 2 days. I've been busy, Mom. The deal, the acquisition, you know what I mean. Why didn't you tell us anything? Her voice took on that same tremor that always brought on guilt. We're your family, and we learned all this from the news. I told you, Mom, many times. You've asked about my computer business at least a dozen times. I told you every time that it's growing. But you didn't tell us. What exactly, Mom? What didn't you tell me? That it's growing to this scale? The news says 160 million. That's true. There was silence on the line. Tyler wants to talk to you. Her brother's voice replaced hers, the same, even, lawyerly one he used with clients. Jordan, I think we started off on the wrong foot. There was clearly a misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, Tyler. On Tuesday, Mom disinvited me from Thanksgiving because Madison thought I was too poor for your dinner. I accepted that. On Thursday, the news broke about my company being sold. That's not a mistake. It's just incredibly unfortunate timing for you. That's not what Madison meant. She just wanted to create a certain atmosphere. I understand perfectly well what she meant. She made that clear to me the first time we met. And that's fine. She has every right to think that. Jordan, come on. Family is family. I completely agree. Family is family. That's why it's especially interesting that for the last 6 years, you've treated me like I'm a family embarrassment. My voice remained calm. Every job posting you've sent me, every time you explained my computer thing to your coworkers as if you were making excuses for me, every seating chart, every guest list, every family photo where I simply wasn't there. It's not fair. You know how I spent this Thanksgiving, Tyler? I ate Thai food and watched The Shawshank Redemption alone, because my family decided I wasn't good enough to eat turkey with them. And you know, it was the best Thanksgiving I've had in years. We want you to come for Christmas, he said quickly. Madison's already planning. The whole family will be there. No. What do you mean, no? No, literally. I'm not coming for Christmas, and I won't show up at any family events at all until something changes completely. Mom answered again. Jordan, please, we made a mistake. We're sorry, but you have to understand, we didn't know. That's the problem, Mom. You didn't know because you never asked. You never looked. You never considered the possibility that I could build something real. You just assumed I was a failure because I didn't achieve success the way Tyler did. We love you. Do you love me? Or do you love the image of a successful son, someone you can finally be proud of out loud because I've become good enough? She burst into tears, and it no longer affected me like it used to. I have to go, I said. I have meetings all weekend. Have a good holiday. I hung up. The next call was from Madison's father, Judge Harold Preston. That was bold, very bold. Mr. Solb, this is Harold Preston. I believe we met at my daughter's wedding. Judge Preston, I'm listening. I decided to contact you personally because of that unpleasant incident over Thanksgiving. Madison is very upset. She's truly struggling with this whole situation. I have no doubt about it. She's a young woman trying to build a family with your brother. Mistakes are sometimes made in these types of situations. You understand that, right? I understand perfectly well. She made her choice based on what she knew. I draw my conclusions based on what I know. That's how it works. Mr. Solb, Jordan, I hope we can work this out like reasonable adults. My daughter really wants to apologize to you in person. Perhaps we could arrange dinner. I'd be happy to host you at our club. There it is. The very country club that, according to Madison, doesn't accept people from a certain circle. Judge Preston, I appreciate your call, but I'm not interested in dinners at your club or anywhere else. Your daughter has made it quite clear what she thinks of me. I'll simply accept her position and move on. I think you're being unreasonable. And I think I'm being perfectly reasonable right now. Your daughter didn't want to see me at Thanksgiving, so I wouldn't spoil the waters. I just want to make sure she never has to worry about that again. Goodbye, Judge. I hung up, ending the conversation with the federal judge. It felt fantastic. The voicemails kept pouring in. Aunt Carol, whom I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Uncle Jim, who once told me it was time for me to get a real job. Cousin Whitney, who asked me to leave her wedding reception early because I looked bad on camera. Everyone suddenly wanted to reconnect. Everyone had their own excuse. Everyone, without exception, was terribly sorry for the misunderstanding. I deleted them all. On Sunday evening, Tyler showed up at my house in Oakland. He'd flown across the country unannounced. The concierge called from downstairs. Mr. Solb, Tyler Solb is here to see you. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. When the elevator doors opened, Tyler looked wrecked. Rumpled suit, no tie, disheveled hair. He was nothing like the polished lawyer I'd grown up with. You've flown to California, I said. You didn't answer. That usually means they don't want to talk. Jordan, please, 5 minutes. I let him in. The apartment was nice. Panoramic views of the bay, modern furniture, art on the walls. I bought it 2 years ago, when Secured's revenue first broke 9 figures. Tyler's eyes widened visibly. This is incredible. It's just home. He sat down without waiting for an invitation. I screwed up. I treated you like you were a failure, when in fact, you've achieved more than I ever have. I let Madison set the tone for the family and didn't stick up for you. I was a bad brother. Yes. He looked up at me, surprised by my frankness. I'm trying to apologize. I see that, and I completely agree with you. You were a terrible brother. You made me a family embarrassment. You let your wife cut me out of events because I didn't fit her aesthetic. For 6 years, you made me feel like a failure without ever once truly asking how my business was doing. I'm sorry. Are you sorry because of how you treated me? Or because I turned out to be worth $160 million, and now you look like an idiot? He flinched, as if he'd been struck. It's not fair. Really, Tyler? If my company had fallen apart, if I was truly drowning, would you still be here? Would you ever have stood up for me to Madison, to my mom? He remained silent. That answer was enough for me. You should leave, I said. Jordan, I'm not breaking things off forever, and I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just tired of being treated like a failure just because I chose a different path. You want a relationship with me, great, but it has to be a real relationship, not one where you only value me when I'm successful by your standards. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't need anything from you, Tyler. That's the point. I don't need you to acknowledge my success. I don't need you to brag about me to your coworkers. I don't need a seat at Madison's supervised table at Thanksgiving. I walked to the door and opened it. I needed a brother who believed in me 6 years ago. That window has already closed. He rose slowly. So is that it? This is the end? This is a pause, a long one. Maybe someday we can build something real. But right now, I need to stay away from people who only see my value when it's expressed in money. He left without another word. The story remained in the news for 2 weeks. I gave 3 interviews, to TechCrunch, Forbes, and Bloomberg. And every time I was asked about my past, I answered simply. I founded Secure It in my apartment with one clear goal: to protect small businesses that lacked access to corporate security. Growth came from focusing on this goal. I didn't talk about my family. I didn't tell the Thanksgiving story. That wasn't the point. What mattered was what I had built: a company, a business, genuine relationships with people who valued me even before I had money. Marcus and I celebrated the deal properly in early December. Dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant in San Francisco, just the 2 of us. "Remember how we were calling medical offices from your apartment?" he said, raising his glass. "Yeah, and how Dr. Patterson said we were wasting his time and hung up. And then, 2 years later, he signed us for a 6-figure contract?" We laughed, that real laughter that comes from shared struggle and shared victory. "Does your family still call?" Marcus asked. "Every day. I don't answer." "Will you ever?" "Well, later. Maybe, if they learn to value me as a person, not as an asset," I said, taking a sip of wine. "But I'm not betting on it." Christmas came. I spent it in Hawaii with Marcus and his family. We rented a house on Maui, swam in the ocean, ate fresh fish, and never opened our work emails. Mom sent a postcard to my office. Inside was a long letter about family, forgiveness, and how much she needed me. She didn't apologize for the Thanksgiving message. She apologized only for not realizing the extent of my success sooner. She still didn't. On New Year's Eve, a letter arrived from Tyler. Subject: "Can we start over?" The letter was long, detailed, and seemingly sincere. He wrote that he had gone to therapy, that he had realized his insecurities, that for too long he had tied his own worth to status and achievements and projected them onto us. "I'm not asking you to forget everything," he wrote. "I'm asking for a chance to build something real, not a brother and a successful brother. Just brothers, if you're ready." I didn't respond right away. I thought for 3 days. Then he wrote, "Therapy is a good start. Go on. Maybe in 6 months we can have coffee. But Madison needs to work on herself too. The way she treated me isn't a matter of social class. It's a matter of basic human respect, and that needs to be addressed." He replied an hour later, "Got it. Thanks for not closing the door completely." I didn't close it, but I didn't open it wide either. 3 months after the deal, I found myself in New York for work. Tech Venture had offices in Manhattan, and I was meeting with the integration team. I texted Tyler, "In town for 2 days, coffee Thursday morning, if you're free." He replied immediately, "Yes, of course, where and when?" We met at a quiet cafe in Midtown. He arrived 10 minutes early, radiating tension. I arrived exactly on time. "Thanks for agreeing to meet," he said. "Thanks for being on time." We ordered coffee. The first 5 minutes were spent awkwardly chatting about nothing: the weather, traffic. Then Tyler sighed heavily. "I still see a therapist twice a week, and Madison and I go to couples therapy." "And how is it?" "It's hard, a lot. She's confronting things from her upbringing, values she never questioned. Her parents weren't thrilled. I can imagine. She wants to apologize to you, for real, not formally." I looked at my brother. He had changed, less polished, more alive. "I'm not ready yet," I said, "but it's important to me that she's working on it." "That's fair," he nodded. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why didn't you tell us anything? About the company, about the success, about all of this?" I could have lied, given a convenient answer, but we agreed to be honest. Because I wanted to understand if you would love me without all that, without money, without status, without big numbers. And for 6 years straight, the answer was no, you didn't. It hit him physically. "You're right." "I know. I don't expect you to forgive me." And rightly so, because I haven't forgiven you yet. But I'm not closing off the possibility of forgiveness someday. That's the most I can offer right now. We talked for an hour, really without pretense. He told me about his fears, about the pressure from Madison's family, about how he'd measured himself by others' approval for so long, that he'd forgotten what was truly important. I told him about Secure, about my first failures, about the moments when I almost gave up, and about how painful it was to be separated from my family for years, more painful than he probably imagined. As we parted, we shook hands, no hugs. We weren't ready for that yet, but the moment was honest, real. "Thank you," Tyler said, "for giving me this chance."
Don't blow it. I won't blow it.
6 months later, I was having dinner with my mom, just the two of us. She'd flown to San Francisco and insisted on staying at a hotel, even though I'd offered a guest room. She'd chosen the restaurant herself. She'd read reviews, compared prices, and prepared. She'd really put in the effort. "Your apartment is beautiful," she said. She'd been there during the day. "And the view is stunning." "Thank you. I love it there." "Jordan, I need to tell you something, and it's important that you let me finish." I nodded silently. She pulled out a piece of paper. She'd written it all down beforehand. Really written it down. Her hands shook slightly as she read. "I failed you as a mother, not just on Thanksgiving, long before that. I always valued Tyler's successes more highly because they were easy to understand and easy to show off. I didn't take your work seriously because I didn't understand it and didn't even try. I allowed Madison to push you out of the family because it was easier than confronting her. I measured your worth by external attributes that didn't reflect who you were. And I'm sorry. I'm truly, deeply sorry." She looked up. They were red. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't expect you to trust me right now. But I want you to know, I see what I've done. I see how much pain you've suffered, and I am truly working on myself. Not just in words, I mean it." I was silent for a long time. "And what does working on myself look like?" I finally asked. "Therapy. Books about family dynamics and the role of the scapegoat. Listening to you, not just waiting for my turn to talk. Not making assumptions about your life, and respecting your boundaries." She carefully folded the paper. "And also accepting that you may never want to be close to me, that I may have ruined everything completely." "I don't think it's completely," I said slowly, "but it will have to be rebuilt, from scratch, not fixing the old, because it was unhealthy, doing something new." I agreed to something new. We talked for 3 hours, about my childhood, about her past, about the family scenarios that had ground us both to pieces. It was hard. She cried twice. I remained calm, detached enough to speak honestly. But it was real. For the first time, it was real. A year after that Thanksgiving message, I hosted a dinner at my home. A small, intimate one. Marcus and his wife, 2 colleagues from Secure who had long been friends. Tyler came alone. Madison had work to do, and they were still sorting out their relationship. Mom came too, tense, grateful for the invitation, careful not to overstep the mark. We ate delicious food, told stories, laughed. No one talked about my money. No one measured my career. No one played, "Look who I am." Just people who chose to be here, chose to build something living. "Thank you for inviting me," Mom said before leaving. "It means a lot to me. Thank you for coming and for respecting my boundaries." Tyler lingered after everyone had left. "It was good. It really was good. Yes, I think we can do that again." "I think so," he smiled. Not his usual, practiced lawyer smile, but a real one. "I'm glad you didn't write us off completely." I didn't write off the possibility. I just stopped settling for less than I deserve. Those are 2 different things. That's right. After he left, I went out onto the balcony and looked out at the bay. The lights of San Francisco shimmered in the water. Somewhere out there, 47 employees were building something important. Thousands of small businesses were protected because of what we did. And my family was slowly learning what I'd understood long ago. Your worth isn't determined by how others judge your success. It's determined by what you create, who you help, and whether you can look yourself in the eye. I built a company worth $160 million. But more importantly, I built a life worth living. Actions always speak louder than words. And sometimes, the family scapegoat is the only one who understood what truly matters from the start.